from your insight and what you've heard from the Jacksonville Jaguars, how do you think they'll use and plan on using Travis Hunter? Do you expect him to be a primarily defensive back, a wide receiver, both? Because I think he is more than capable of doing either one, whatever he puts his mind to. But how do you expect the Jaguars to use Travis Hunter this season?
It's absolutely been split right down the middle in terms of who you ask when it comes to the national landscape. Some individuals view him more as a corner, and you'll probably continue to develop him as a wide receiver. Others believe that you drafted him with the number 2 overall pick to primarily be a wide receiver, and you'll use him in some spots at the cornerback position because you really don't want to tire this guy out, within the first years of his rookie contract, him playing both sides of the ball, although that's a guy who has said that I'm going to play both sides of the ball, and that's something that he wants to do. And the brass has really understood that in James Gladstone, Liam Coen, as well as Tony Baselli, the executive vice president. And Liam Cohen's been, forthright in saying that, listen, there have been times during this offseason program in which we have used him where he's worked on one side of the ball, and then that afternoon when we're going through installs, he's with the other group. He's with the defense, and he's learning certain, just formations. He's learning things with inside the defense in which they're liking to do. He's very much a walkthrough guy instead of a guy that just wants to sit and talk through what the idea is of what they're trying to accomplish. And also the same thing on the offensive side of the ball. If he spends a lot of the time during those practices playing as, a defender, once those practices are over, he's on the offensive side with Liam Coen and the offensive coordinator, Grant Udinski, and learning just that side of the ball and what they're looking to accomplish. So they've really been forthright with them. They've really done a great job in communicating with the Travis Hunter as to what they're looking to do. And he's also communicated how he wants to be able to be utilized to be the best for this football team. So for me, if you were to ask me, I think this is going to be a guy that's going to start out on the offensive side of the ball primarily. And then I think you use him in spurts on the defensive side. I think maybe third downs, also in red zone. We'll also see if they have any special packages for him, but I primarily see him on the offensive side of the ball, at least to start, in my opinion.
That makes me excited. RJ, because I was, him going to Jacksonville, I was really hoping that, Liam Coen, Gladstone, we're all in on using him, not being afraid, of Travis getting hurt and all the other arguments that I've heard with people of not wanting, to use Travis to his full versatility. Now, let me ask you about Travis. Have you heard about whether there's a learning curve, whether that's at receiver, whether that's at defensive back? I've discussed with Alcorn State coach Leroy Frederick how there may possibly be more of a learning curve going into the NFL at receiver, maybe more than defensive back. What have you heard about that? And kind of give us your insight on that.
Absolutely. I mean, there is going to be a learning curve here going from college to the NFL, but it does seem to me that he has just the right group of guys that are going to be able to communicate with him what is to be expected. I mean, here's an individual that hasn't played a down yet, in Jacksonville. And let me tell you something, just a bit of insight. We're treating him like the president over here. I mean, This guy really can't go anywhere without, people cheering for him. If he drops a napkin on the floor, I mean, I think it's breaking news here in Jacksonville. So, understanding that the learning curve is going to be there for one Travis Hunter, Liam Coen and company are saying, listen, but he's picking everything up rather well. We're not trying to put too much in front of him, not trying to, inundate him too much with what's going on. I think this installation process with Liam Coen being a new head coach in the NFL and you having these rookies that are coming in here trying to learn a brand new offense, Trevor Lawrence also learning a brand new offense. Everyone's really trying to grow together. So in this OTA process, in this offseason program process, this is more or less just a guy trying to figure out this offense, figure out the defense since he wants to play both sides of the ball. And once we get to training camp in the first couple of games of the regular season, I think it'll be more polished up. It'll be more tight and it'll be more strengthened. But so far, so good when it comes to Travis Hunter and what we're seeing during the offseason portion. Now we're in the dead period. Training camp's going to be here before we know it. But so far, so good. And I mean, the arrow's really been pointing up in terms of Travis Hunter, both offensively and defensively, in terms of how he's been able to pick up the playbook, both offensively and defensively. And he said, listen, this is nothing new to me. I did this at Colorado. He's also done it at Jackson State. So I understand he's really excited to go on this new endeavor and have this opportunity in the NFL. And we're all excited here in Jacksonville just to see how this plays out and what happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's focus on the offensive side of the ball. I want to ask you about your receiving core and how Travis fits into Jaguars receiving room. You guys got Brian Thomas Jr., who Sean King, Super Bowl champion, been on the show, is claimed for a long, long time is about to be a stud. Was right about him last season. Can't wait to see him this season. Obviously, you guys also got De'Ami Brown as well. Pairing with Travis. How do you feel about the receiving room in Jacksonville and how Travis fits into that in the Jaguars offense?
I understand that the talk has really been around Travis Hunter because you're seeing a two-way dynamo and you really have interest to see whether or not this guy can do it. However, at the same time, I think Brian Thomas Jr. has come into this offseason really looking to send a message. If that makes sense, I think he's come into camp or the offseason program, I should say, just kind of a lot bigger. I think a lot stronger. People that have been at the practices have said, he looks a lot better than even what he was last year. And I know that's kind of hard to believe. I mean, seeing the numbers and the production level that he had this past season, but I think he understands what's in front of him. I think Liam Coen and company are also going to be guys that are going to utilize them in different areas of the field. This is not just going to be one individual that's going to stand on one side and just be on the outside and kind of have that redundancy probably in which we saw from the last regime this past season. De'Ami Brown, I have to be honest with you, when you talk to people in that building and you also talk to individuals here at this station that have talked to others when it comes to De'Ami Brown, there's a level of just, listen, this guy is going to be really good. He's really going to be an individual that is going to help us this season. And it's also going to help Brian Thomas Jr. And you fit Travis Hunter into that. I think all of this stuff is going to benefit Brian Thomas Jr. with the additions of De'Ami Brown, with the addition of Travis Hunter. I think it's going to help make Brian Thomas Jr. that much better. I think it's going to put that much more of a spotlight on him in terms of what he can do on several different sides of the field and on several different avenues of the field. So that's been an exciting piece too. I think Travis Hunter, you're also going to be a guy that is going to be able to be utilized on certain parts of the field and in certain aspects as well. So it seems like Liam Coen is saying, listen, not all these guys are not just going to be placed in one spot. And we're saying you're just going to be an outside receiver. Sometimes we're going to use you inside. Sometimes we're going to use you in other areas where you can be successful. So the defense just doesn't have an understanding of where you're going to be at all times. We're always going to try to keep the defense guessing. And that's a breath of fresh air, especially when you have a guy such as Travis Hunter, who, I mean, he's always due for an incredible play, at least 2 or 3 times per ball game. But I think it's really going to benefit Brian Thomas Jr. And that's something that Liam Coen talked about with having a guy such as Travis Hunter, that's really going to benefit Brian Thomas, because he had something, along the lines of that with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans down there in Tampa Bay. So I think he's really looking at that, seeing what tools he'll be able to take from his time in Tampa Bay, bring that over here to Jacksonville, and really, make the most out of his weapons for Trevor Lawrence. Because at the end of the day, that's who he said he's trying to build this entire thing around. So let's see what happens, during the regular season when it comes to Travis Hunter, how they utilize him in the offense. But Brian Thomas Jr., I think, has a real opportunity coming into this season. When you ask certain individuals, they look at him as a top 12 to 15 wide receiver already, and it's already been year one. I think if he has a level of production that is, upped from year one to year two, I think easily he can crack the top 10 in terms of receivers this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, I expect nothing. I mean, I expect Brian Thomas to be your guys' one. I expect Trevor Lawrence to look to him and rely on him because I think he's an absolute stud. Now, I wanted to ask you one final question on Travis. It's going to be brief.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about Travis possibly being used in the return game last season? I do a Colorado show with the Colorado alumni Matt McChesney. We had Deion Sanders Jr., Bucky on, and asked him, when are we going to see Travis in the return game? Like we always ask that. Have you heard any inkling about that or not? Or that was just something I wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything yet when it comes to Travis Hunter being used in the return game. I think really the focus right now is with him wanting to play both sides of the football. It's really trying to get those playbooks down, really trying to learn that, try to implement that. I think they, have individuals and who they're considering and being utilized in that return game. I think LaQuint Allen's going to be an individual that's probably going to be looked at as one of those. Joshua Cephas, if he makes the team, was a part of the return game last season. maybe another individual in which they decide to utilize if he makes a team after camp. So nothing yet in terms of, Travis Hunter being one of those guys that's going to be looked at to be utilized in the return game. But I mean, you never know if he's
Right.
wanting to do it. Maybe they say, you know what, let's see what you got. But I think the focus right now is just both offensively and defensively, really trying to get that down for Travis Hunter for him to be successful year one.
Okay, that makes me excited. Now let's go. Let me ask you about the man throwing on the ball, Trevor Lawrence. Do you expect a bounce back season from Trevor Lawrence? How's his development been this offseason? How is he working with the Jaguars receiving room so far? And what do you expect from him going into the season?
So far, when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, I think many Jacksonville Jaguar fans have had to understand, and with the people in which I've talked to, listen, he hasn't thrown the ball in 4 months. This is the first time in which he's thrown the ball since that injury he suffered last season. There's been days where he's looked sloppy, but there's been days where he's looked, fine, and where you're seeing that, listen, he's really taking to the tutelage in which Liam Coen, Grant Udinski, and that whole offensive staff is really giving him, and giving him an opportunity to also utilize, the throwing weapons in which he has, whether that be Brian Thomas Jr., Brenton Strange, Travis Hunter, De'Ami Brown, also individuals in the backfield such as Bashal Tutin, who they drafted this year. You also have Tank Bigsby. You're also going to have Travis Etienne. So I think he's going to have a wide array of weapons. I think, there are a lot of individuals that looked at the offseason program and wanted Trevor Lawrence to be perfect in it. So if you saw, tweets, or if you saw a video of him throwing, an interception, or him not having the greatest day, I think there have been many individuals that said, okay, that's it. I mean, this guy needs to, be traded or let go, or maybe we need to start looking at another quarterback, another option. But I mean, to those people, I will say, listen, he has a no trade clause in his contract. You just signed him to a $275 million deal. The front office does believe that this is an individual that can lead the Jacksonville Jaguars to a Super Bowl. And I think that you have to be patient with them, because now this is, I believe, his third new regime, third new offense in 5 years. He really hasn't had any sort of stability here to where he's been able to be the guy in which I believe he wants to be. Dabo Sweeney was on, with us not too long ago on our afternoon show, and he said, listen, Trevor, I think he can get it done there in Jacksonville, but he can't do it alone. You're going to have to give him an offensive line. You're going to have to give him a run game. You're going to have to give him guys in which he can pass the ball to. So I think that's what Liam Coen coming in day one saying, we're going to build this whole entire thing around Trevor Lawrence to make him successful. I really feel like they've done a good job in doing that thus far. And I think Trevor, once we get into training camp, I think we're going to be able to see just how much of the offense he's been willing to pick up and has been able to pick up. He has said this offense really gives you a lot of answers to a lot of things. So when we really think about it, I think also the fact that once the nuances are able to be tightened, once we get to training camp and probably week one of the season, there may be a lot of Jacksonville Jaguar fans that'll be, really pleased with the offense and how it's ran. Now, a lot of that is predicated on Trevor Lawrence. If they give him the offensive line, if they give him time and they give him a clean pocket, I think this is a guy that can really do damage on the offensive side of the ball. But it's a tall order when, your offensive line isn't that great and you're on your ass the entire time, or you're really trying to play hero as we've seen him do for the first 5 seasons of his career. Just not an easy thing to do, and it's a tall order to ask. And I think when you look at a guy such as Liam Coen and the success he's had with other quarterbacks, I mean, most recently in Baker Mayfield, you're kind of looking at Liam Coen saying, hey, can you fix our quarterback we just paid $275 million to? I don't know whether or not that's fair. However, I do believe that he's trying to make this as easy on Trevor as he can as well, to where it doesn't feel that Trevor Lawrence has to make the biggest play of the game every single snap. So Trevor Lawrence, so far, he's looked good. I think it was to be expected that he'd have some sloppy days just due to the fact he hasn't thrown the football in 4 months. But I do believe that he is learning and picking up this offense rather well. We'll see what he does in training camp. And once we get into the joint practices with the Miami Dolphins and moving forward this season.
Hey, Jaguars fans better be ready. I'm excited to see T-Law, see how he develops in camp, because I'm going to be watching the Jaguars. I can't wait to see. I think they're that division, in my opinion, is wide open. Houston is a big question mark to me. I'm a huge fan of CJ Stroud, great player, but I'd like to see the team they've built around him this offseason.